Have you ever heard of a mystery so chilling that even YouTube helped catch the killer? Suzanne Eaton was a 59-year-old American scientist, a respected professor of molecular biology in Dresden, Germany. Her life revolved around research, discovery, and traveling the world to share her knowledge. In July of 2019, she flew to the beautiful Greek island of Crete for yet another international conference. But what she didn't know was that this trip would be her last. On July 20, after finishing her conference, Suzanne stayed behind for a while, playing the piano in the hotel lobby and smiling with her colleagues. It was a normal, peaceful moment until she said goodbye and walked out. That was the last time anyone ever saw her alive. Later that evening, when she failed to appear at the next conference, her co-workers knew something was wrong. Suzanne was never the type to vanish without a reason, and soon, a terrifying truth began to unfold. As hours turned into a full day with no sign of Suzanne, worry quickly turned to fear. By July 3rd, her colleagues could no longer wait. They contacted the police, hoping she was simply ill or resting. But when officers arrived at her hotel, there was no answer. With a spare key from the staff, they entered her room. What they found was unsettling. The room was untouched. Everything was still in its place. Her luggage, her clothes, even her personal items. The only things missing were her running shoes and a set of exercise clothes. To those who knew Suzanne, this was all too clear. She wasn't just a brilliant scientist or a gifted pianist. She was also an athlete, a double black belt in Taekwondo, and despite her age, she ran every single day. Investigators quickly pieced it together. Suzanne must have gone out for her usual run. But this time, something went terribly wrong. The island was unfamiliar to her, the paths confusing, and on that particular afternoon, the heat was stifling. Somewhere out there, in the scorching sun, Suzanne had disappeared, and no one knew why. At first, investigators believed Suzanne may have collapsed in the brutal heat. It seemed like the most logical explanation. Search and rescue teams scoured the area around her hotel, checking running trails, cliffs, and shaded paths. Even her family flew in, desperate for answers, offering a $50,000 reward to anyone who could help bring Suzanne back. But days passed. No trace, no clues, just silence. Until July 8th, 5 days after she vanished. Two young men were exploring one of the abandoned World War II Nazi bunkers scattered across Crete. Dark, cold tunnels, stretching deep underground. About 200 meters inside, their flashlight caught something strange. A burlap sack, covering something on the ground. Curious, they pulled it back. What lay beneath froze them in horror. A brutal discovery, marking one of the most horrifying crimes in Crete's recent history. The truth of Suzanne's final moments was even more horrifying than anyone had imagined. An autopsy revealed the brutal reality. Multiple fractures across her body, broken ribs, and even a missing ear. This was no accident. Someone had hunted her, tortured her, and left her lifeless in that bunker. Investigators now knew they were chasing a killer, and soon, they found their first major clue. At the entrance of the bunker, fresh tire tracks cut into the dirt. Following this lead, authorities traced the vehicle back to its owner, a 27-year-old local sheep farmer named Yanis Paraskakis. When questioned, Yanis played innocent. He claimed it was all a coincidence, that he just happened to be driving through that area. He even insisted he didn't know the bunker existed. But detectives weren't convinced, and his lies would soon unravel. Because Yanis wasn't just a farmer, he had a secret obsession. He wanted fame. He dreamed of becoming a successful YouTuber. Back in 2012, he had launched a channel under his own name, posting video after video. Videos that would eventually expose the darkness he tried so hard to hide. But if you visit Yanis's YouTube channel today, you won't find much. Just 3 simple videos, clips of him practicing an ancient Chinese martial art and meditation technique called Qigong. Why only 3? Because just days before Suzanne's body was discovered, Giannis wiped his channel clean. Investigators managed to recover some of the deleted videos, and what they revealed was chilling. Giannis had filmed himself exploring abandoned World War II bunkers again and again, the very same bunkers where Suzanne's body was found. This contradiction was enough for police to move in. On July 15th, Giannis was formally arrested, and once they began digging deeper, the evidence against him became overwhelming. The land where the bunker was located, it belonged to his family. Traces of Suzanne's blood found in the trunk of his car. When confronted with these discoveries, Giannis finally broke and confessed to everything. According to Giannis's own confession, he had seen Suzanne jogging along the road. Something inside him snapped. He struck her with his car twice. Then, with cold calculation, he placed her in his vehicle, drove her to the abandoned bunker, and ended her life there. Later, he tried to twist his story, claiming he was compelled by a demon, but the jury saw right through him. In 2020, Giannis Paraskakis was sentenced to life in prison, without the possibility of parole. It should have ended there, but the truth is far darker. Giannis portrayed his crime as a sudden impulse, a random act of violence. Yet evidence suggests otherwise, that he may have been more than just a murderer. He may have been a serial predator in the making. Police records show he had already been detained twice before, once for arson and once for animal cruelty. Both chilling warning signs, behaviors often linked to serial killers. And after his arrest, more women came forward, testifying that Giannis had tried to run them over with his car in the past. Which begs the question, was Suzanne truly his only victim, or just the one they managed to uncover? So, Suzanne may not have been Giannis's first victim after all. The most haunting piece of evidence came from one of the deleted YouTube videos investigators managed to recover. In the footage, Giannis explores the very same bunker where Suzanne's body was found. But this time, the camera captures something even darker. Scattered across the floor are what appear to be human bones. Strangely, these bones were never recovered by authorities, suggesting that Giannis may have removed them to cover his tracks. But the most disturbing moment comes when a friend of Giannis, visible in the video, makes a chilling remark. Roughly translated, he says, "Is this where you left that old guy?" A sentence that carries terrifying implications, suggesting that Suzanne wasn't his only victim, but simply the one who exposed him. And if that's true, one can only wonder, how many others met their end inside those dark, abandoned tunnels? What if the family life you see online was nothing but a mask hiding something far darker? Simply Manic 6075 looked like just another harmless YouTube channel. Behind it was 24-year-old Samantha Wolford from Monticello, Texas, a young mother of 5, sharing small pieces of her daily life. To her viewers, she seemed like a woman struggling, yet still chasing her dreams. But Samantha's story wasn't the ordinary tale of motherhood. It was a story that began with love and spiraled into something far more disturbing. Back in 2008, she was at the lowest point of her life, recently left a single mother of twins, with no partner and no future in sight. That's when she met Ernest Lee Ibarra, better known as Ernie, at a local tattoo shop. The connection was instant, and soon they began building a life together. In her own videos, Samantha described meeting Ernie as the happiest day of her life. Together, they had 3 more children, including another set of twins, 5 kids in total, a family that looked picture perfect from the outside. Ernie worked hard, even picking up a second job as a pizza delivery driver, just to keep food on the table. To everyone else, the couple seemed strong, united, and loving. But behind the camera, Samantha wanted more. She was a stay-at-home mom, yes, but her real dream was bigger. She longed to become a famous actress, no matter what it took. "I've always wanted to be an actress," Samantha once said on camera. "It's so much fun. I've been extras in movies. I've had small parts in short films. Acting is the most beautiful art form. To express yourself that way, it's amazing. In October of 2010, she decided to chase that dream online. She launched her YouTube channel Simply Manic 6075, hoping it would make her a star. At first, it seemed harmless. Samantha uploaded whenever inspiration struck, sharing her thoughts and moments of her life. The views were small, barely breaking 100 most times, but to her, it didn't matter. Someone was watching, and that was enough to fuel her dream. But over time, that simple passion began to change. Making videos stopped being just a hobby. It became an obsession. Every upload, every view, every comment, she craved more. And soon, that obsession would take her down a path darker than she could have ever imagined. As Samantha's obsession with YouTube grew, her family began to suffer. She spent more and more time recording videos, leaving less for her 5 children and her already overworked husband, Ernie. By 2014, cracks in their perfect family began to show. In several uploads, Samantha even accused Ernie of hurting her, hinting at a relationship that was far from happy. Then, in March of 2014, she posted what seemed like just another random video and disappeared from the internet entirely. No explanations, no goodbye, nothing. Maybe she'd given up on her YouTube dream, or maybe she wanted to focus on her family again. No one knew for sure, but the silence was eerie. And then, almost a year later, on February 20th, 2015, her viewers finally received an update. But it wasn't from Samantha. It was from the police. That night, Texas authorities received a frantic 911 call. On the line was Samantha's aunt. "I have a home invasion. My niece is tied up. I'm trying to untie her right now." The operator asked if anyone else was there. The answer was chilling. "She's tied up and gagged. Where are the kids?" What unfolded next was a nightmare no one saw coming. Inside the house, 5 small children lay asleep, unaware of the nightmare unfolding around them. According to Samantha, 3 masked men had broken in during the night. They attacked while she and Ernie were sleeping. Samantha was bound and gagged in the bedroom, while Ernie was struck with a gun, beaten, and then dragged out of the house by the intruders. Strangely, nothing else was stolen. No valuables, no money, no electronics. Only Ernie was taken. Samantha managed to loosen her restraints just enough to reach out for help. She called her aunt, who rushed to the scene, freed her, and dialed the police. By the time officers arrived, the children were unharmed, still asleep in their rooms. On the surface, it looked like a targeted kidnapping, but investigators couldn't ignore the uneasy details. Why take Ernie and nothing else? Why would a pizza delivery driver, with no enemies, be singled out this way? Something didn't add up. Still, there was no time to waste. The priority was to find Ernie alive. With no real leads, officers brought Samantha down to the station, hoping she might remember something useful. But the moment she sat inside the interrogation room, everything changed. Because Samantha's story was about to unravel. At first, Samantha claimed she knew nothing about the attackers. But once inside the interrogation room, her story suddenly shifted. Now, she had a name. She told police about a man who went by the alias John Rebel. According to her, she had been speaking with a friend about Ernie's alleged abuse when John overheard. Outraged, he supposedly declared that no man should treat a woman that way, and that he would handle the situation himself. As investigators dug deeper, they discovered John Rebel was real. His actual name was Jonathan Sanford. Within days, police tracked him down along with 2 accomplices, Jose Pon and Octavius Rhymes. All 3 were arrested. But what came next was even more shocking. Jonathan Sanford didn't resist. In fact, he confessed immediately. He admitted to the kidnapping and confirmed the worst possible outcome. By the time police became involved, Ernie was already dead. Sanford revealed that he and his partners had taken Ernie deep into a secluded forest, forced him to his knees, and executed him with a single shot to the back of the head. But even after the arrests, one haunting question remained. Why? Why would three men strangers to Ernie storm into his home, tie up his wife, and drag him away into the night? Every answer pointed back to Samantha. She denied everything, insisting she had no part in the crime, but her story had cracks, deep ones. How had she managed to free herself just enough to call her aunt? Why didn't any of the neighbors hear a struggle? And why, on that night, were all 5 children suddenly sleeping in the same room, when usually they were scattered throughout the house? The truth was about to come out. Investigators uncovered undeniable proof messages Samantha had sent to one of the kidnappers, Octavius Rhymes, during the crime. While police were desperately trying to reach Ernie's phone, she was sending chilling instructions. Kill his phone. Shut that down. Ditch phone. Move. With those words, her mask was shattered. There was no doubt anymore. Samantha had been working with her husband's killers from the very beginning. And as the investigation unfolded, so did the horrifying motive. Samantha had become consumed, addicted to her fantasy of YouTube fame. Her neglect of the children had become a constant source of fighting between her and Ernie. To her, he wasn't just a husband anymore. He was an obstacle, and she wanted him gone. But instead of facing her problems like a responsible adult, Samantha made a deal with darkness. She colluded with her friend's boyfriend to hatch a cartoonishly evil plan at first. They wanted to plant drugs in Ernie's car and have him arrested. But soon, their twisted scheme escalated. Taking his life would be quicker, easier, and maybe, just maybe, it would make her famous. In the end, Samantha Wolford wasn't just a struggling YouTuber, she was a cold-blooded killer. She was sentenced to 149 years in prison, while her 5 children were left behind, completely orphaned. All because their mother's obsession with attention turned into something far more terrifying.